Hello everyone. The novel I'd like to recommend today is full of mystery and contradictions from the very beginning. After his mother falls into a coma, Jason is overwhelmed with guilt and self-blame. He thinks HES the cause of his family's tragedy. Meanwhile, he discovers that everyone around him, including his best friend Axel, is keeping secrets about Castiel. She's warm to him at times but cold when he needs her most. It turns out she's a member of a demon family with a special mission. As Jason seeks the truth, he uncovers more secrets about his loved ones. But the truth is more cruel. This story is like a mysterious maze that draws you in. Come and explore with me. 25. Jason. After Castiel's enigmatic encounter with Elder Clarence, which she remained tight-lipped about, the evening progressed smoothly. The ballroom buzzed with activity as people mingled, their laughter and chatter blending with the clink of glasses and the rustle of formal attire. As the newly appointed leader, I took a moment to survey the scene, the weight of responsibility settling on my shoulders. These were now my people, their lives entrusted to my care. The enormity of it all, children, elders, men and women, was overwhelming, though it never admitted aloud, "Fear not at me." How could anyone, let alone someone not yet 18, not feel the pressure of thousands of lives depending on them? Castiel, ever attuned to my emotions, sensed my unease. She gently squeezed my hand, her emerald eyes meeting mine with a reassuring smile. "Want to dance?" she asked, her voice light and inviting. "With you, always," I teased, eliciting a deep blush that colored her cheeks. As she led me towards the crowd swaying to the soothing piano melody, I found myself captivated by her beauty. Castiel was truly ethereal, her skin smooth and radiant, lips full and painted a rich red that accentuated her vibrant green eyes. Those same eyes that held so many secrets. My mind wandered to her mysterious encounters with powerful figures like Elder Clarence and Aramazidi, and the enigma of her last name, Morningstar. The name sent a shiver down my spine, and I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to Castiel than met the eye. She pulled me from my reverie as we reached the dance floor, her arms encircling my neck as I placed mine around her waist. We began to sway gently, our movements gradually becoming more fluid. "You are so tense. Is everything okay?" Concern shone in her eyes, genuine and intense. The sincerity in her gaze melted away my doubts. What did it matter if she had secrets? She was my soulmate, the one person I was destined to spend my life with. I smiled softly, placing a tender kiss on her forehead before whispering, "I am now." Her answering smile was radiant. Soon, our dance evolved into playful, silly movements that had us both chuckling. We spun and leaned against each other, two souls connecting amidst a sea of strangers. After what felt like mere minutes but was closer to an hour, we decided to take a break and refresh ourselves. As I poured sparkling water for us both, I felt a sudden weight on my back. Instinctively, I tensed, ready to defend myself, when Castiel's laughter rang out, instantly putting me at ease. "Bella," she smiled to Hour that was currently hanging by my back, almost falling. "Babe, get down before you hurt yourself," Will said while laughing at the sight. I was just congratulating Jason. "Look, he even looks taller." "Are you taller? Did you grow up a few inches?" "Can I grow up too? I'm sick of the boys calling me a smurf." She ended with a pout while jumping back to the ground. "Oh man, she's really drunk." She started ranting, Elijah said while shaking his head with a smile. The whole group was here. My friends were all here to support me. My chosen family was here for me, and the thought made me smile. I would never admit to them, but they do make my days a lot brighter. After my mom's incident that led her to have the collateral damage that she has now. The incident that was my fault. The incident that made my sister hate me, and the incident that completely broke me. These people were the only ones that managed to put a smile on my face. And looking at them now interacting and laughing with my mate made everything just better. I felt pure joy, and am forever grateful to these guys. "So Jason, how do you feel?" Axel, My future beta and best friend asked me I was suddenly interrupted by a scream. Everyone turned their heads to the source of the sound and our eyes widening in the process. There stood an 8-feet-tall man, holding a small girl in the air by her fragile neck. His teeth were showing, glistening under the lights of the chandeliers that were set above our heads. His mouth opened so wide that could fill the whole girl in it. But what terrified everyone the most were his eyes. They weren't white. No, his eyes were completely black and dull, a subtle red light coming out of them. Each possessed. Castiel finished what Axel was about to say, making him look at her cautiously sideways. And hell broke loose. People were screaming and crying. The witches started chanting alongside with the elders while the leaders tried to calm their own species down. I quickly mined the pack warriors to get ready to kill on sight if needed, and many other orders. Everyone calmed down. Walk outside following the pack warriors. They will protect you and lead you to a safe place. Children and pregnant women first. Warriors, follow me. I shouted in my newfound alpha command voice that seemed to boom to every corner of the room. And slowly but surely the room started to clear out. I looked back at the small girl that was being handled by the monster. Fat tears rolled down her small chubby cheeks while her eyes were red from crying. Her terrified gaze locked eyes with me, and I felt something burning inside me. Ethan, take the girls with you to the safe room. Elijah and we'll go help the warriors. Axel, stay with me. All of them followed my orders. I took one last look at my mate, only to find her already looking at me, her eyes glowing a deep orange color, almost red. But I didn't have time to think about it. I looked back at the monster in the middle of the room and quickly shifted into my wolf, letting Basil take full control. I only remember biting into the man's arm that was holding the girl hostage in the air, making him let her go, and got ready to see the girl pound against the ground, jumping in the air to deliver my final blow to kill him, when suddenly a bright white light appeared out of the nowhere. 26 Castiel, so let me get this straight. You stop time. Arama's Ed looked at me with his eyes wide as saucers while holding a black leather agenda with the holy gold stamp on it. Yes, I said quietly while looking out from the window. Holy shit, he whispered while taking a deep breath. We were currently sitting in my bedroom back at my house. I was sitting on my chair, one leg on top of the other, only one foot touching the ground. I rested my chin against my hand, using my arm to support my head, facing the garden of the house. Did anyone see you? He asked, facing his papers once again, his golden pen securely held in between his fingers. A pain spread through my chest when he asked me that. Did anyone see you? I was right, I should have stayed at home. I whispered while looking at the dark roses that sit peacefully in the garden's soil. They were beautiful, tinted a deep and dark red. It almost looked like they were painted with blood. Castiel, are you okay? Arama's Ed asked, putting down his agenda and pen, the black ink leaving a small smudge in the yellowed page. It was all my fault. I replied quietly with tears stinging my eyes. Oh, Cass, he whispered while getting up, heading my direction. Cass. Nero used to call me Cass, but after seeing him last night, I don't even know if he's able to look me in the eye anymore. Why do you say that? He asked while putting his cold arms around me in a comforting way. That's the thing with me and Arama Zedi. We have known each other since I was 5. Him being the messenger of the vampires required that he visited the other side often. When I met him, he was little over 2 years old, which in human aging would be equivalent to 16. We were all about business. However, after being through thick and thin with the Dead War, we grew closer. He was one of the very few people that I trusted at the moment. Clarence Reyes was there, and HES dead, set on making my life a lot harder than it already is. I replied bitterly. What do you mean? He asked with a frown. You know Melinda, right? The girl that threatened me for challenging Tiffany Prada, from Ororis bloodline. I paused and looked at him, his response being a nod, recalling one of our many conversations. Well, Clarence told me that Chef's being held on the Royal Pack dungeons. What? Why would he be bothered by that to the point of coming to talk with you? That's what I'm trying to figure out. It makes no sense. The thing is, he wasn't really complaining. He was taunting me. I know that Melinda has some sort of past with Jason that I'm not completely aware of. I thought that it was something random like an ex-girlfriend, but apparently is deeper than that. I replied, if he knows that you and Jason are mates, then he probably did that to push your buttons. The mate bond is strong and easy to mess with, especially when it comes to third parties that could trigger jealousy. And he continued, oh, he knows that me and Jason are mates, trust me. I answered with a bitter tone. Then he probably did that to get a reaction out of you. He somehow found a way to know that Melinda was arrested and that Jason didn't tell you, and he used that excuse to create trust issues between you two. He pondered. That makes sense, but I just don't understand why. Why bother me? Barama ZD, I have a terrible feeling about this. I think that he is responsible for the possessions that are happening, I said while finally meeting his eyes. He took a step back. Castiel, you are aware that what you are suggesting is incredibly dangerous, right? He said while looking at me with a serious expression. I'm aware. Just hear me out. You know that my father granted him powers in exchange for his soul, right? And one of his abilities is demonic invocation. He cut me off while staring at the ceiling. I nodded and he exhaled a deep breath through his nose after pinching the bridge of his nose. This is bad. This is so bad. He let out frustrated. It's the third possession in a short time of 2 weeks. We need to report to the council. I need to tell my father, I said while getting up. Are you sure that he is involved in this? An image of last night crossed my mind. After the demon was controlled and everyone was safe, I ran outside the castle through the back doors that led to a dark forest, trying to run off before anyone saw me. As soon as I opened the door, I quickly shut it behind me. I leaned against it while taking deep breaths with my eyes closed, trying to shift back without anyone noticing. I was back to normal and ready to sprint back and call Carl to come pick me up without raising any suspicions when I looked to my left side and almost jumped in fright. There he stood, leaned against the wall with a cigarette between his fingers, a dark cloud coming out of his mouth, his eyes red, staring back at me. I stared back at him until he smirked, putting out his cancer stick. It's been a while since I saw your wings. I almost forgot how majestic they were. Truly, Clarence said while leading the wall and standing straight, indicating that he was about to leave. I quickly pushed him again against the wall, holding him by throat, anger pulsating in my veins. He chuckled. Nero, could you please remove your sister? I'm having a hard time trying to breathe, he said, his voice raspy and gasping due to my hand constricting his airway. I froze when I felt cold hands on my waist pulling me backwards, making my hand retract from Clarence's neck. I turned around and came face to face with my brother. My twin brother. Nero, I gasped. He looked back at me, his face cold and stoic, not a trace of warmth. Not a trace of my brother Nero. Why, his demeanor didn't change. I pushed against his chest, tears pouring down my cheeks for his betrayal. Answer me, Nero. I pushed him again. Answer me. I was about to push him again when he held both my wrists and forced me to stay put. I could overpower him. I could. But I didn't. He's my brother. My best friend. My everything. I looked him in the eyes and said 3 words that still haunt my mind. I hate you. His eyes softened as he whispered, I'm so sorry, and then he let me go, and before I could even process anything, he left with Clarence. Yes, I'm sure Rama's ED exhaled once again. I'll report this back to Lucifer first. I simply nodded. It's not your fault, Castiel. HS responsible for this, and he will pay, he said while patting the top of my head. I nodded again in response while heading towards the door to show him his way out. When we arrived to the main entrance, I was about to open the door when he interrupted me. You know you still haven't answered my question, though, he said after a moment of silence. I kept looking ahead, not replying. Did anyone see you? After Jason ordering Ethan to escort me and Isabella to the safe room, we locked gazes and ensured that by now my eyes were glowing, but somehow I couldn't look away. He eventually looked back at the matter in hand and I followed Ethan to the safe room. Once we were settled, I noticed that we were the only ones here. Keeping my gaze on the floor so that they couldn't see my eyes, I asked what was going in my mind. Why are we the only ones here? This is one of the royal's personal safe rooms. Oh, each member of the royal family has one. This one is Jason's, only we know where it is. Ethan replied, his back facing me as he laid down an unconscious Bella, the alcoholic drinks finally catching up on her. I took this moment as an advantage and did the unthinkable. I knocked Ethan unconscious with a hit in the head. "I'm so sorry," I whispered while laying him down next to Isabella. I immediately ran back towards the ballroom, making sure to lock the door behind me so that Ethan and Bella stayed safe. Trying to remember the way back, I quickly arrived to the huge celebrating room. The first thing I noticed was the huge beast fighting an enormous black wolf whose eyes were blue like the depths of the ocean. Jason. Well, Jason's wolf. Then I sprang into action. I felt my wings ripping through my back, a burning sensation spreading through my body. My dress was replaced by my vest and fire spread hot through my veins. Like a lightning bolt, I knocked the warriors down, making sure that none of them saw me. Most of the room was cleared except for Axel, and somehow I had a feeling that he would be harder to take down without him noticing me. I quickly and violently creeped up behind him, fire resting on both my hands. I was about to put out the fire in his head. It wouldn't hurt him. In fact, he would pass out even before the fire touched him due to the sleep-inducing smoke. When he suddenly turned around and looked at me in the eyes and I watched them widen, he whispered the devil, his eyes full of terror and shock, his face paling and sweat dripping down his face. I tried to touch him and he stepped back, flinching in fear. He was scared of me. The horror on his face made me think that he was about to pass out. But even in the terrified phase, he stayed loyal to his alpha and ran towards Jason, a demon. I could almost hear him shouting Jason's name. Something that couldn't happen. Jason can't know who I am. No one can. Desperation filled me in. I was full on panicking in the fraction of seconds before he opened his mouth. I closed my eyes and something snapped in me. And then a flash of bright light stormed through the castle. Everyone froze. Everyone except me. The silence was disturbing. No one was moving. I looked at Axel and he was frozen mid-step, his mouth opened. I looked around and saw Jason mid-air, blood oozing out of one of his wounds, while the little girl was a second away from hitting the ground and the beast was laying on the ground with a defeated look on his face. Jason was about to jump on him and deliver the final blow. I ran to the beast and put my hands on his chest and applied pressure. Demon IUM per re me. Per re vest rod eo. I said, letting my powers take over me. The sickening, scary voice coming back once again. Demon, obey me. Obey your god. A dark figure-like smoke quickly came out of the man's mouth. I opened the portal to the underworld and made sure to remember to talk with the council about this. The figure stood in front of me on its knees, head bowed down in submission ire. I shouted, angry, go. The demon quickly entered and I closed the portal. The letter to my father will be read face to face. This can't go on any longer. After closing the door, I returned back to work. Damage assessment. I turned to my mate and sliced my leg, pouring my blood on his wounds. Healing him. I looked around and one by one I treated the wounded. Picked the little girl and put her in a safe place and laid everyone down, their backs against the cold floor. When I was finished, I shivered. It was a morbid picture on display. Several men and women laid on the floor. Blood stains everywhere. Each person with a different expression on their faces. Eyes opened. It looked like a scene from a horror movie. And the silence. The silence was so loud that it was deafening. What have I done? I started shaking and closed my eyes, my knees hitting the ground with a thud. My wings shielding my body, embracing me while tears started stinging my eyes. I looked once again at Axel. He saw me. I need to get rid of him. I got up and started walking towards him, a trail of fire following me. I lifted my hand at Agar in my fist and stared one last time at his eyes. His terrified eyes. What have I done? I couldn't do it. I dropped the dagger and wiped my tears. You'll take care of him later. No one saw me. I opened the door and Ramazidi left. 27. Jason. 1 week has passed now and my mother is still unconscious. It was predicted that she would black out due to her medication, but the doctors said that the stress of the whole attack made her biological defense mechanism switch and go on a full lockdown, inducing her into a comatose-like state. It's been a really draining week for everyone. With the previous queen falling ill and the fear of the unknown events that went down at the end of the coronation still lingered the air. I've tried texting Castiel to know if she was safe and well, to know about her in general, to which she only replied, "I'm safe at home, don't worry about me," which at the time seemed to relieve me and my negative thoughts. However, as days went by and sending messages without any sort of response made me feel uneasy, I tried to justify her actions by telling myself that she was probably still shaken up about everything. Another thing that is bothering is the fact that every time I brought that up in conversation with the group, Axel would always freeze and act weird. Now that I think about it, he has been acting sketchy ever since the tragic events a week ago, always avoiding eye contact with me, making up excuses to leave the conversations earlier, always on his room. I'm not the only one noticing it. Elijah, Ethan and Isabella have noticed it as well, but none of them has been successful at having a deep conversation with him. Every time one of them tried, he would say that he was tired and didn't want to talk about it. As my beta, he should be able to talk with me about everything, and the fact that he isn't doing it is bothering me to no extent. I decided then to go to his room and maybe receive some answers. However, when I knocked and no one answered, I opened the door only to find his room empty. No Axel in sight. I was about to go down and try to find him when one of the many servants of the palace came rushing in my direction. "Your Highness, Queen Sophia has woken up. King Tobias asked you to meet them as soon as possible." I quickly absorbed her words before following her into my parents' quarters where everyone was reunited. As soon as I opened the door, everyone turned to look at me before going back to my mom. I whispered. She glanced at me, her eyes empty and face expressionless. She looked really pale as well, almost like a ghost. In fact, no one did. My father sat beside her holding her hand, peppering it with soft kisses, while Madison sat on the other side glaring at me. "This is all your fault," Madison said, her hateful gaze unwavering, tiny fist clenched by her side. "Enough, Madison. Your mother doesn't need this negativity around her right now," my father said in a low voice. Suddenly my mother started crying and sobbing, her eyes never leaving mine. Her sobs soon turned into whimpers, and whimpers turned into screaming, all while still looking at me. "Perhaps it's better if you leave for now, son. Whatever is happening, you are triggering it. Don't worry, everything will be all right," my father said while idling his wife in his arms, choosing and soothing her by massaging her hair. With a heavy heart, I left them and started walking through the halls of the castle. No matter what I do, I always manage to screw up. My own mother can't bear to see me. How pathetic is that? I'm a king now. However, I didn't feel like one. In fact, I felt like the worthless being on earth. For a second, my mind went to the alcohol stack at the castle's kitchen, but then I remembered the last time that I got drunk. The night that I cheated on Castiel. Castiel. I need to see her. With my mind made up, I headed to my car and punched in the directions to my mate's house. Seeing her will ease my mind and restless heart for sure. Speeding through the empty roads while softly hitting my thumb against the steering wheel, I reached her house in less than 30 minutes. I parked my car, turned off the engine, and stood still for a while, rethinking my actions. What was I going to say to her? I rubbed my hands in my face in frustration. I took a deep breath and my handle of the handle of the door. My action, however, was interrupted by a large group of suited men and women leaving my mate's house. Curiosity sparked inside me as I watched the intimidating group move towards a group of black jeeps. How didn't I notice the cars before? What spiked my interest the most was the golden stamp that all of their suitcases carried. Gold against black. Their presence didn't settle well with me. They radiated a powerful aura. They were definitely not human. I tried to catch their scents, but my attempts were in vain. A shiver went down my spine as they entered their cars. What the hell is going on? My wolf was restless and howling danger inside me in every direction. Then my conversation with Castiel urged in my head. I was born with Morningstar as my last name, but since I moved out here I changed it. Could those security matters be related with them? A rush of adrenaline took over me. The urge to see Castiel magnified by 1,000. I need to see her. I need to know if she is okay. I knocked on the door non-stop until I heard movements from the other side. The door opened and my eyes took in the sight in front of me. She looked exhausted and frightened. "Maria, are you okay?" I asked, concerned. "Your Highness, you shouldn't be here right now." She replied in a quiet voice. "What? Why is everything okay? Where is Castiel?" I rushed, more worried now than ever. "Don't fret, my king. Miss Jones is fine. Just really busy right now," she said, wavering a little while saying Jones. She kept looking behind her through the whole conversation, which made my stomach churn. "I know that her last name is Morningstar. Maria, you don't need to use her fake name with me," I said, trying to reassure her. She, however, didn't take my words lightly as she broke into a deep sweat, her face paling and hands shaking. "Don't ever say that name again. Now please, Your Highness, you need to leave." She simply slammed the door in front of me. I, on the other hand, couldn't stop thinking about the endless possibilities of what could be right now. My wolf was pacing around, howling and growling. The word danger kept repeating itself in my head. Without second thoughts, I broke into the house and rushed towards Castiel's room. "No. Jason, please. Your Highness, don't go in there," Maria kept shouting while trailing behind me as I sprinted to my mate's room. Seeing the dark door in front of me, I broke it down and came face to face with my Castiel. "My angel. Jason," she said, confused in her sweet voice. Her eyes were red and swollen. It seemed like she has been crying. I quickly pulled her into a hug. "What are you doing here? You can't be here now," she mumbled against my chest. I was going crazy without knowing if you were okay," I whispered against the top of her head. She pulled away, caressing my face with her right hand. "I'm fine, Jason, but you need to leave now," she said in a strong voice. "Why, please just leave," she begged me with her eyes. I was going to shake my head no when suddenly the temperature of the room dropped drastically. The air felt heavy and it was hard to breathe. Shivers and goosebumps spread through my whole body, freezing me to my bones. An unexplained and uncontrollable feeling of fear creeped inside. I heard Maria shouting, "Is everything okay?" A dark, deep, powerful voice boomed from the end of the hallway. I could hear heavy footsteps coming closer, each step making the room grow impossibly colder. "I'm fine, Father, do not fret. I'll join you and Mother in a minute. I just need to breathe a little." 28. Castiel. My father stood still for a while before slowly going back downstairs, and I took a deep breath of relief. "Jason, you need to leave now. Go into the kitchen. Arama Zedi is there. He will help you to get out unnoticed." I rushed in panic. Jason meeting my parents and finding out who I am is the last thing that I want to deal with right now. "No, Castiel, what the hell is going on? Who are those people leaving your house? If you are in danger, you need to tell me," he said while grabbing my face with both his hands while looking me in the eyes, trying to read me. "I can't, Jason. Not now, please, just leave before you get into trouble." I could feel the tears stinging my eyes once again, and I think that my glossy eyes plus the desperation in my voice made him realize that this was serious. "Please," I whispered one more time. He sighed and rested his forehead against mine with his eyes closed. "Angel, I know that there's something shady going on with you and your family. I've known it for a while, but I chose not to ask you, because I trust you. You are my mate, my life, and I hope that someday you'll learn to trust me too." My heart broke as he said those words. The urge to tell anyone what was going on grew by each passing second. But I can't. Not now. Nero is in trouble. He gave up his powers and became human. Became immortal. Fragile and easy to extinguish. He lied to me. He lied in my face on the very first day that I started school here. Made up a whole explanation to justify his physical presence and tried to feed it to me. And I believed him. I believed my brother might win. My other half. I believed that he had been able to do some sort of temporary spell with the help of Allegra, the leader of the Witches' Coven, and that he grew tired. Little did I know that he had in fact performed a spell, but only to turn him human, to give up his life, his title, his powers, his responsibilities, and throw them at me. He didn't come to visit me because he missed me, nor because he had a secret to tell me. He came to say goodbye, and I was left alone with no one to confide to. I can't tell my friends. I can't tell my parents, and Ramazidi is already busy enough. I promise. Am not leaving you. I whispered back against his lips, a tear shedding from my left eye, which Jason quickly wiped with the pat of his thumb. We didn't kiss because I pulled away to urge him to go to Ramazidi. He placed one last kiss on my forehead and sneaked his way out. I, on the other hand, made my way back to my father's office, where both my parents were waiting for me. I knocked on the door and pushed it open after I heard him saying, "Come in." As soon as I stepped in the office, my mother pulled me into her arms. "Oh, baby. I'm so sorry, princess. You don't deserve any of this." I hugged her back, missing her warmth and comfort. Ever since I left home, my encounters with my parents have been short and always about business. No family moments or whatsoever, which also meant no hugs from my mom. The last time that we had a family meeting was when he bled before disappearing. Thinking of my brother, I looked over mother's shoulder straight into my father's eyes. His glowing red eyes. I pulled away from my mom and sat on one of the chairs. After a moment of silence, father spoke. "I don't know where I went wrong." I looked back him. My mother was by his side, looking with sadness at him. "You didn't." I replied back firmly. "Are you sure, Castiel? When was the last time you lied to me?" To which I kept quiet. He knew. Of course he knew. It was decided to put out an arrest warrant to both Clarence and the Light Ghost. Use of force as needed as long as they are both brought alive. He changed the subject before he got interrupted by Mom. "But he's still our little boy Lucifer. We raised and cherished him our whole lives. I know my son he's not doing this by his own choice, I'm sure of it." I kept quiet, waiting for my dad's response. "He's not Nero anymore, Charmine. He's old enough to make his own choices. And I like to believe that my own blood wouldn't be stupid enough to give up their whole lives under a threat and not tell anyone about it," father replied while pushing my mother's hair behind her ears. His eyes now equally sad and angry. "But what if there's a really good motive? What if he was the one being threatened?" I interrupted them both, making their eyes snap back to me. "What are you implying, Castiel?" Mother asked. I turned towards my dad. "Tell me, father, what do you know about soulmates?" He clenched his jaw while looking at the corner of his eye towards Mom. "Your mother, as the angel of harmony, is responsible for them, except for werewolves. And I guess vampires now too. That is all Aura's work. Why?" I looked back at Mom, who was pale as the wall as she let out a gasp. "Oh no." She whispered. "What is going on?" Father said while raising to his full height. And then I remembered. Back to the end of chapter 14 until I heard a knock. I turned around and came face to face with brother. "Nero, what are you doing here? What the hell is going on? Why did you do it? I thought you had left." Father cowled and even looked me in the eye, to which he closed the door behind him and made sure that we were alone in there. I do. I need to leave, Castiel, but there's something that I need to tell you." Curiosity sparked inside me as I urged him to go on while putting my other questions aside. He took both my hands in his before taking a deep breath. I found my soulmate. I stood there frozen, looking at him before pulling him into a hug. "I'm so happy for you, Nero. That's such a blessing. Did mother tell you anything?" I kept squeezing him a little bit more. "And not the only who has been blessed, you are just blind, sister." He whispered so quietly that I'm sure that if it wasn't for my newfound abilities, I wouldn't have been able to hear him. "His name is Sam, and he's wonderful, Cass." I cowled and helped the grin that seemed to be imprinted in my face. Even if he decided to become a human, he's still my twin brother who I love and care about. "Castiel, whatever happens, promise me that you will protect him." His tone heavy and serious, to which I nodded. "Of course." "What's going on? What's wrong?" I asked, worried. "I had to do it," he whispered, refusing to look me in the eye. "Do what?" "Nero, what did you do?" I raised my tone, getting scared. "They are coming." He kept on going. Who's coming, Nero?" I said, grabbing his arms. "I had no choice, I can't tell you. I forced him to look at me. Castiel, next time you see me, I need you to hate me, and you can't tell absolutely no one about this conversation. Not even Mom and Dad." I shook my head. "No, Castiel, whatever happens, I need you to protect him." He repeated, "I trust you. You are smart." Think the sudden changes everywhere. The possessions. I know that you can figure it out. Yes, I lied to Jason when I told him that I didn't know what mates were. But I didn't lie about not knowing that he was mine, as I was his. Everything I did it for him, to protect him, by not letting him know who I was. It was the only way. However, I can't say the same thing about my brother. He knew that me and Jason were mates. That's why he had acted weird when he told me about his. I broke out of my thoughts just as my mom finished telling my dad about Nero's mate. So you think that this might have something to do with his mate? To which I nodded. Am sure of it. I replied, keeping my tone professional. Castiel, your priority right now is finding Sam. You won't go to school, you won't talk to anyone outside this room unless it is to get information about your brother's soulmate. I need you to go solo under the radar. You are going to disappear. Zilch. From now on you are a ghost. No one knows about you. I hung my head low, trying to control my anger and frustration. And absolutely no one. And I mean no one is allowed to know about this. Not even your mate. I know that this is incredibly hard, but you need to keep him as far away as possible. Break up with him or something like that. I'll leave it up to you. I quickly got up. Father, please. Everything but that. I begged him with my eyes glossy. My father's eyes softened and he took me in his cold embrace. My little princess, you are a grown woman now and am so proud of everything you do, Castiel. I am. This is the final effort to put an end to all of this, my darling angel. As soon as this is over, you will be able to tell him. You will be able to roam free. You won't be a secret anymore. I won't keep you from your true identity anymore, love. But for now, this is the best option, sweetheart. I'm so sorry. He kept soothing my hair as he held me against him. And remember that you are stronger than you think, my darling, for which you are the fruit of a forbidden love. Daughter of the devil and the angel of harmony. You have the world in your little finger, for which you are the angel on fire. Fly high, love, with those flaming wings of yours. A reminder that we will always be with you. My mother said whilst pulling all of us into a family hug. I'm scared. I whispered. I'm so scared. To which they replied by hugging me tighter. Minutes later I exited the office and made my way towards the back door of the house. The emergency exit where I knew that Aramazid would lead Jason out. My suspicious were confirmed when I heard yelling. It's your fault that my mother is almost brain dead. It's always your fault. To which Aramazid replied, Are you sure about that, little king? I heard that you were too busy fucking a whore while your mother begged for your help and your dad kept trying to contact you to save your mom. Admit it, Jason, you are a spoiled brat. You always had everything handed to you on a silver plate. You were always too arrogant and selfish. You were selfish to the point of letting your little sister and your mother fighting for their lives while you were too occupied caving into your personal urges. You are pathetic. Aramazid sneered and a loud growl was heard. Jason was about to shift. Enough. Both of you. Jason immediately stood still and rushed towards me to grab me, only to be stopped by Aramazid. Don't you dare to touch her, he whispered menacingly. She is my mate. Let go of me right now. Angel, tell him to back down, Jason said while looking at me. I know what I have to do. I know. However, I kept quiet, looking at the ground. Castiel, he said brokenly. Not even your mate can look at you. Aramazid said while shaking his head. Castiel, he repeated. My reply, however, was repeated. Jason, I think it's better if we stopped seeing each other, I said, standing my ground, looking at him now in the eyes. But you promised. 29, Jason. My chest hurts. So much. I've never felt this weak and betrayed before. My life felt like it was falling apart into crumbles. First my family, then my best friend, and now my own mate. With my worst enemy. How did I let this come this far? She promised me not even an hour ago that she'd never leave me, and now she wants us to stop seeing each other. We were sharing a moment of emotional intimacy in her room. She seemed so truthful. She seemed like she actually cared for me. What sort of sick joke is this? Was all of this just a game to her? After confronting her with her promise, she remained silent while staring ahead, avoiding my eyes where she was, seconds ago looking directly at. Was all of this a joke to you? I asked, anger and sadness coursing through my veins. Jason, she said with a broken expression before hardening. Leave. I took a step towards her, but before I could get closer, Rama ZD grabbed my arm again. This disgusting half-dead leech. Leave now before I get you escorted out. Don't make this any harder. She kept going, her voice now cold and harsh while turning her back towards me. You are not wanted here. My heart broke all over again. She didn't deny it. I was never anything to her, was I? Everything. The tingles, the kisses, the hugs, the words, the promises. They were all fake, all empty. I was a fool for thinking that she was hiding something deep and personal about her. She was hiding something, yes. She was hiding a sick game of torture and push and pulls. She made me want to trust her and give her everything without expecting anything back. Everything was too perfect. She was too perfect. I should have noticed this before. The secrets, the suspicious slip-ups, and her sud and disappearing should have been signals for me to be careful. But I was a love-sick puppy following her everywhere and craving for her attention while she was throwing knives at my back. Was she even my mate? Basil growled at me for thinking about that. She was clearly our mate. She just didn't see us as hers. I was angry and hurt, and nothing could stop the words that came out of my mouth. Seconds later, you know what? Maybe Tiffany and Melinda are right. Maybe we were a mistake. You could never become a queen. You are a cold-hearted sick person, Castiel Jones. Mates or not, I don't want to see you again either. Maybe Tiffany will become my new partner. She is after all a pure descendant of the moon goddess. More useful than a twisted human like you. I escalated out furiously. I didn't mean any of those words. I could never do that to her, no matter what she did to me. To us. You are a fool, Jason Silva. Arama ZD whispered in my ear before shaking his head in disappointment. Basil was not happy with my words either and started clawing at my insides, forming aches all of my body. He wanted to go back to his mate, to beg for forgiveness and cherish her with love. However, I couldn't let that happen. Not anymore. Dragging myself out of the damned mansion, I reached my car. And to my surprise, I saw a flashy red paint peeking out behind the bushes. Coming closer, my heart skipped a beat. What the hell is Axel's car doing here? My mind, still hot from that argument, started making up the worst case scenarios possible. Could it be that Axel is seeing Castiel? Is that why he has been acting weird lately? He was always a little reluctant about our relationship, but I always thought that he was just looking out for me, like a good beta would do. But now I'm starting to think that he was trying to pull us apart because he wanted her for himself. My chest pained again, and I decided to go back and see what the hell was going on. Following his scent, I came face to the main entrance again. Hearing voices, I quickly hid behind a Greek-themed column and watched from the side as my best friend knocked at the door and was greeted by Maria, who told him to wait a minute before she disappeared inside the house. So he was welcomed instead of being yelled at to go away. Seconds later, Castiel emerged from the door and looked at Axel. Then he did something that I wasn't expecting at all. He bowed down, his neck out in total submission, eyes on the ground, his body stiff as a rock. I've never seen Axel like this before, and I've known him since diapers and have been through thick and thin with him. I kept watching the both of them to see what would happen next, but I wasn't ready what I saw. Castiel pulled him up and came closer to him, smiling, looking him in the eye. She came impossibly closer. I closed my eyes, not wanting to see what would come next. However, the masochist part of me forced me to open my eyes again to see the both of them, hugging. A sense of relief filled my body for a brief second before the now familiar ache came back. Why is she smiling and hugging him? Why couldn't she do the same thing for me? Having enough of this show, I turned my back towards them and headed towards my car, before slamming my door close and leaving for good. I arrived back at the castle with fire still burning inside me. Decided I went stairs and kept on descending, step by step until I reached the dungeons. The space was disgusting. A putrid smell spread through the air while the walls were all dirty and full of caked up dry blood. I kept walking, looking through each and every cell until I finally caught sight of a certain red feisty hair. Melinda was laying down on the dirt in the small closed space where she could barely move. Her eyes were sunken and darkened. She looked paler. "Get up," I ordered while smashing an iron stick against the grid that separated us to make sure that she woke up with the loud noise. She quickly turned her defense mechanism up, and even in her weakened state, she managed to look ready to pounce and pull apart anyone that threatened her. She truly was a remarkable warrior. When she noticed that it was me who was in front of her, she relaxed and got back to a normal stance. However, you could still see that she was tensed, waiting for any unexpected move. "Oh, it's you," she said while shrugging her shoulders slightly. "Came to torture some answers out of me. Because if that's the case, I'm more than willingly to help. I'm getting tired of the soup that they serve here," she continued with a glint in her eyes. "That depends. What do you have to confess?" I pushed at her while staring down at her. "Apart from that attack on your little human while she was shopping with your friends." "Not much," she said without a care in the world, leaning against the once white wall. I, on the other, was outraged. "What? You were the one behind that," I yelled at her. She jumped and looked at me confused. "Yeah, isn't that why you were here?" She cocked her head to the side. "No." "How did you even do it?" "You were locked up way before any of that happened." To which she shrugged again before replying, "I never said that I did it by myself." "Then who was helping her?" "Who helped you?" I asked, narrowing my eyes slightly at her. Now, Jason, on you know that snitches get stitches." "In not telling you shit," she replied, looking at me smugly, which infuriated me a lot, and I was ready to push her to get answers when I looked at her eyes. She looked so tired and empty of putting up a tough front. "What happened to us, Melinda?" "We used to be friends," I said, disappointed while shaking my head at her. "Mates was what happened, Jason. I was rejected by my mate," she said painfully. I looked at her again with pity before sitting on the ground in front of her. That still didn't justify any of her actions, either recent or past ones, but somehow, the person that was once my friend that I grew to despise was the only one who could understand what I was going through. And so we talked, like we used to do before, as if nothing had happened, putting the past aside. And I liked that. 30 Castiel. Letting Jason believe that I've been playing with his heart the whole time was one of the most difficult and heartbreaking things that I've ever done in my entire life. Adding the fact that I knew that he was still there hiding behind the column while I hugged his best friend, his most trusted friend, minutes after I ordered him to go didn't make anything easier. But it had to be done. I spared Axel on the night of the coronation and asked him to come visit me so that I could explain him what went down, who I was and my role in the whole situation. In exchange, he had to promise me to keep quiet and avoid raising suspicions of our meetings throughout the week. At first, his reaction was what I had expected of him, fear. But as the conversation developed, he soon found himself overcoming that fear and looking at me with the utmost respect. So much respect that he obligated himself to bow to me every time we met, despite my efforts and begging for him to stop. He didn't seem to want to listen. He wanted to bow. He wanted to be helpful in my journey. We also talked about Tom, his younger sibling. That was the new wind element, and how Axel could support his younger brother through the terrifying changes that were yet to come. It was safe to say that we are now allies, friends. So in order to push Jason away, I had to hurt him more, to the point where he cowled and looked at me, at least until I could tell him everything and pour my sorrowful heart out to him for a fraction of a second of a set, kissing Axel knowing that it would for sure make his heart ache. However, I cowled and go through it. It made my inside feel void for even thinking of sharing a kiss with anyone that was my mate. Besides, friends don't kiss. It would make my progress with Axel take 10 steps backwards. After being sure that Jason was gone, with no intention of coming back anytime soon, I pulled away from Axel and took a deep breath before letting my tears finally fall freely from my eyes, down through my cheeks and neck. I'm a complete mess. My new friend quickly pulled me into a hug again before rubbing my back, trying to bring me some comfort. He knew that Jason had been watching but didn't question my actions, putting his trust in me. A few minutes and a pair of wet shirts later, I seemed to regain my strength back and was left hiccuping from crying so much. "Are you ready to talk yet?" Axel asked after pulling the both of us inside the house and leaving me on the couch. I nodded and started explaining everything. I need to keep Jason away from me for a while. He'll be leaving on a mission for a few weeks and need to be under the radar. No one can know about me. That's why I called you, I said, looking at him in the eyes at the end. I need you to be my eyes, Axel. While I'm away, I want you to update me on everything that happens here. I can't leave my mate and friends behind knowing that there's a threat out there without any protection. I continued while taking both his hands in mine, staring into his eyes, so that he knew how serious I was about this. I'm not supposed to be in contact with anyone. Those are direct orders from my father. I'm willing to bend them as long as all of you are safe. I finished softly, looking over his shoulder. Won't you get in trouble for that? Castiel, your dad is the devil himself. He's bound to know sooner or later, Axel said while taking his hands from mine, making me snap my gaze back at him. Then you better pray for the later, I whispered with a small smile, knowing fully well that even if I get in trouble it won't be serious. My father might be cold, but he loves his family. But most importantly, he knows me. He knows that I would never obey to each and every of his orders like an obedient puppy. So are you in or not? I finally asked him, looking at him while he pondered his answer. Of course I'm in, he answered, confident. I smiled at him before asking him to wait on the couch for a few minutes while I left to go to my father's office to retrieve a certain bag with a golden stamp, the Holy Gold stamp, on it. Not wanting to leave Axel waiting for too long alone on the living room, I quickly rushed to the office. I heard movements coming from the inside, which meant that my parents were still in there. I knocked and opened the door without bothering to wait for permission to come in. And oh boy, do I regret it. Right in front of me stood my rather busy father, sitting on his chair while gripping my mother's bottom as she rested on his lap. Legs on each side of him. They looked like horny teenagers. I let out a squeal which made them immediately pull apart from each other. My mother was a blushing mess while my father stood with a smirk on his face looking at his wife. Mother opened her mouth to try to explain, but I quickly cut her off. I knocked. She quickly snapped her mouth shut and got up and left the room under the pretense that she had a lot of things to discuss with Maria. I simply stood still as she passed by me, trying to erase the recent memories that eye cowled and tongue see. My father let out a thunder of laugh before sobering up and looked at me with a subtle smile. Remembering why I was here, I got back to my mission and opened a drawer where the bag should be, only to find it empty. What are you looking for? Father asked, curious, turning his face the slightest towards his right side. I'm searching for a book that was inside the official documents bag, I replied, knowing fully well that there was no point in lying to him. Oh, I asked Maria to remove from here a few weeks ago. The bag is back in Deadlands, the underworld, my home. Why did you need it? He asked while leaning on the wall looking down at me. I needed some ancient spells from there. You know, for the mission. It was a lie. I simply left out the part that I intended to give the book with the spells to Axel. Unlike every other spell or enchantment, the ones that were written down on that book don't need the performer to be a witch or a wizard. Any creature can practice them and use them, which is why they are guarded by the devil itself and changing locations every few. Not only were they volatile to all creatures, but they were also extremely powerful. They were perfect for Axel to have in case something went wrong while I was gone. You won't be needing those anymore, my father said while shrugging bored. What if something unexpected happens? I replied, pretending to wondering, lightly touching my chin while facing the ceiling. I'm sure you are more than capable of solving any upcoming problem. Besides, I assigned your cousins to watch over you. Now that sparked my interest. My cousins, I repeated, looking at him from the corner of my eyes. Michael, Uriel, Raphael, and Gabriel will be taking turns and assist you on all of your needs. Father replied, smiling, probably remembering his darling nephews. The main archangels. Honestly, they were all I doing, but I loved all of them regardless. However, there was one of them missing. What about Metratone? I said, frowning. Metatron was the most powerful of the archangels. He is of immense spiritual fire, wisdom, and divine light. HES not mentioned in every human culture, but HES for sure very well known in the divine world. He has been elevated to a higher rank. He is responsible for another full city in heaven and is rather busy. Like a king, I would say. He answered before leaving the office in a rather dramatic way. I was left alone with my thoughts on the big empty office. I guess I have to make a short visit to my hometown before going fully in on this mission to get the book back. I wonder if Axel wants to come along to see what awaits him after he dies. 31. Jason. I woke up with a jolt and stopped. My heartbeat was the only thing that I could hear in the dark, empty room. My body incredibly tangled with the black sheets that were now sticking to my skin due to my incessant sweating. I placed both my hands on my face while closing my eyes and taking a deep breath, feeling a headache already forming. I simply laid there, not sure for how long, looking at the ceiling while replaying my nightmare over and over again. Her words, his words, their actions. My eyes burned, but I refused to cry. I should have known. Everything was so easy with her. It couldn't possibly be real. I don't deserve to shed a single tear for my ignorance. But at the end of the day, she was still my mate as I was hers, having enough of staying still whirling in a mess of emotions. I got up and went to my bathroom to splash some water on my face in an attempt of easing my headache. Deciding then to take showers since I was covered in sweat, I quickly stripped out of my shorts and hopped in the water. The cold water hitting my face before I turned around so that it would touch my back, resulting in a whole body shiver reaction. However, my mind felt numb and so did my heart. I rested my forehead against the wall before simply rasping out her name. Castiel. I couldn't even recognize my own voice. It was scratchy, raw and deeper. I sounded old. The water kept falling for how long and not sure. All I knew was that as soon as I stepped out of the square-shaped glass, I would be a new man, wiser and stronger. My mind was made up. I was going to make things right, not only for me, but also for my kingdom. While I got dressed, I took a quick glance at the clock and it read 666 first and of a section of a second later. I froze, thinking that mine was playing tricks at me before glancing back at a clock that in reality read 313 am. The devil's hour and the most famous that omen number. How sickening is that? I quickly woke Basil up in my mind in case something went wrong. A bad feeling filling me, and while shivers raked all over my body. I don't usually believe in any of that shit. I know that the devil exists because Clarence supposedly made a deal with him. And demons have been possessing many of my people lately. But I guess I never thought that it could actually happen to me. I'm not superstitious. Numbers and signs never really bothered me, however, in this precise moment I couldn't shake off those little details. It's commonly known that between 3 and 4 am the supernatural activity is much higher. Humans even have a name for those 60-minute switching hour, they would say. Or as most people know it, the devil's hour, where humans believe that our powers are enhanced as at the most silent moment of the day. It's rather foolish, but the fact that I had seen the number 666 flashing in my alarm clock for a brick of a sec and didn't ease my paranoia. I looked through my slightly blurred window, quickly wiping off some of the fog with my bare right hand before peeking a glance at the trees, only to see a pair of glowing orange eyes staring back at me. My heart stopped beating for a second, and then I passed out. An annoying constant pounding sound woke me up from my deep slumber. I stretched my stiff muscles and then opened my eyes, taking a look at my surroundings. I fell asleep on the floor by the window, memories of last night quickly making their way into my mind. The clock, the bad feeling, and the eyes. I was still on the floor when suddenly the persistent knocking stopped and someone barged in my room. "What the fuck are you doing on the ground?" Axel asked while taking in my blank face and stiff position. I was about to shrug it off before realizing that I was talking with Axel, my supposed best friend that went to meet my mate and seemed rather cozy with her behind my back. Rage quickly filled me and I replied while looking at him in the eye. "I don't know. Why don't you tell me what the fuck have you been doing for the past 2 days? My voice full of venom. Yes, it had been 2 days since I last saw him with Castiel. Ever since their meeting. Axel hadn't been home until now. He seemed to understand what I meant by watching his confused expression turn into something else. "Whatever, just get up. We have school in an hour," he said while turning his back towards me, closing the door behind him on his way out. Ignoring his blatant disrespect towards me, I quickly got ready and went downstairs where everyone was most likely waiting for me to eat breakfast. As I had predicted, Ethan, Elijah, and Isabella were in the kitchen while munching on their food. A rich aroma hovered in the air around me. I sat down at the head of the table while noticing the empty spot on my right side. "Where's Axel?" I asked, looking around the table as Ethan slurped at his cereal, making me cringe a little on the inside. "He already ate. HES waiting for us in his car." Elijah answered me while shrugging his shoulders. "Yeah, he has been kinda distant, I guess," William murmured while taking a bite of his green apple. "You." "Ethan, stop slurping your milk, it's disgusting." Isabella screeched while pointing at Ethan with her fork. "I find it rather impressive. Do you see how fast it disappears from the bowl? Watch closer." And he quickly rushed closer so that Isabella could see the sloppy milk with his mushy cereals floating on top of it. "At least he is not licking his bacon anymore," Elijah said while watching the duo fight over Ethan's manners. "That sounded incredibly wrong," Will said while choking on his apple with a chuckle. "Leave my bacon out of this, you plant cedar. Think about the baby carrots, Elijah. How ruthless can you be?" Ethan yelled back at Eli, momentarily forgetting about his feud with Isabella that was left shaking her head. "You are truly an idiot," she muttered while pinching the in-between space in her eyebrows. "Think about the little piglets that died for the bacon that you were slobbing with your saliva, Ethan. Remember Peppa Pig? This is her now." Elijah argued while pointing at the plate beside Ethan that was filled with a few stripes of bacon. Ethan looked at his plate with an horrified expression. "Poor Peppa. Where is George?" To which Eli replied with a subtle smirk, "You ate him last week, Ethan. Don't you remember? You even said that it tasted funny." Ethan quickly let out a gasp while falling back in his chair with a rather dramatic pose. "I'm a murderer." Yes, you are, Ethan." Elijah kept teasing him. William had finished his apple and was now trying to control his laughter by burying his face on Isabella's shoulder, who was looking in disbelief at the idiot in front of her. I shook my head in amusement, a small smile gracing my face for the first time in a few hours. Leaving them to be, I quickly finished my meal and went back upstairs to brush my teeth and grab my keys. Once I was done, I headed to the garage to wait for the rest of them and maybe be able to confront Axel about what happened without causing unnecessary drama with the rest of the group. The last few days had been hard for everyone, and I didn't want to add more fuel to the fire. This was between me and Axel. I needed answers, and only he and Castiel could give them. And since Castiel refused to see me, Axel was my last and only chance. The thought of my mate deliberately rejecting me and my affections made my heart ache a little more, and mine quickly flushed with images of both of them hugging tightly and Castiel ordering me to leave. A wave of anger suddenly rushed me. I was ready to get him to talk. I wasn't ready, however, for the sight in front of me when I reached his car. Behind his vehicle, Axel was sat on the ground, hidden from every owner's sight. An old-looking book rested on his right leg as he sat crisscrossed. His eyes closed as he kept chanting words in a foreign language, which I assumed to be Latin, and small objects floating around him